guys, welcome back to the lesson 8. Today the main goal that we have is to finish the dashboard, and we're going to start looking at it right now. So if you are following this series, please remember to leave your like and support this series so that you can help with the YouTube algorithm and support the work that I'm doing. Right, thank you very much. So let's go. So initially we have this page. This is our dashboard page. We have few filters. The filters are working, and what we don't have yet is a way for us to identify which post is ourselves, like we created, which post that have we created, and which post that we can delete or not. Right, so because this will be a website used for many different users, so we want to address that. The first thing I want to start giving some love is about this filter tab. Let's have a look to this filter page. So this filter on top of the dashboard page. So if you go back and we look to the dashboard page, let's have a look here. So I think this filter world is kind of non-necessary really, but what I want to do, if you think with me, like this is a button group, so then we have a few buttons inside, and then we have this button here, right? So I want to do something in a way that allows us to split those functionalities, and I also want to add a new filter here, and this new filter that I want to add will be basically when you want to see the stuff that just we created. So I will add this, basically the filter handler. This will be a different function, right? But this will be, let me have a look. This is going to be, we can call my events. Here will be my events. These my events I will add to the top after all events. I think it makes more sense to be the second one. This functionality will be a little bit different for us, so we're going to create another handler here that's going to be my events handler, because we will do a different query. This is basically, for now, what we want to do is to set the R selected to my events. This is the only thing that we will do right now. But another thing that we can do, we can add a class here, and this will be filter panel. And what I want to do with the filter panel is to style that a little bit. So I like to leave the media queries as the last item inside my CSS, but you do as you think is more appropriated. So this will be the filter panel, and we want to display this as a flex. And so we want then the justify content space between. So now if you look the buttons, let's have a look to the buttons. We have different buttons already. These buttons, I'm wondering if we can get them smaller, but they're kind of okay. Yeah, events. Maybe we need a different color for this event. I don't know. I guess this dashboard could be also cancel the event. And also another thing I noticed, when you create a new event, so let's grab this as an example and say test one. This will be 15 pounds. Let's pick a date, and a sport will be swimming. When you create, it tells you that you created, but it doesn't do anything else. I want to redirect you to the events page so that you don't need to click in the dashboard, to the dashboard page, I mean. So now if I go in cycling and swimming, Let's fetch all these things. Running, events, cycling, swimming, out sports. Yeah, 15. That sounds about right. Yeah. So now we have these events here. What we can do is basically, if you open the events page, let's give some love back here. Inside the events page, we have the dashboard button. So what we want to do here is look for the dashboard word, and then what we can do here is change that to cancel, and basically we can add this property on click. If you cancel, I push you back. However, we will need the same thing when you click the submit. So if you submit and you pass all the validation, we want to create a new event, we want to set all these things, but after we set to false, we want to also push you, so we can say history. So now if you come back there and go to the events, let's create a new event as a test. So this will be the episode 10, the episode 10. So if you do test 2, the price will be £19. The day will be any date 2020. So you can, this is the good part, this is all responsive, so you can use tabs to do everything. So this will be a cycling, and if you click in submit, they will tell you, and then we'll refresh you. So I think it's much better, right? So now we're starting to be okay. My event doesn't do anything. I don't know why this is doing that. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't change the call to the action. So if you close that, go back to dashboard, my event will be a function. I'll be my events handler. We don't need to pass anything to this function. In fact, because we don't need to pass anything, that means we can do the shorthand. Let's just assign the function call, right? So in this case, it's going to trigger that. Let's see if that's going to work. Yeah, so it's selecting the button. So it's the only thing that we asked to do is select the button. And then let's look our backend. So if you go to the backend and you open the routes, we have the dashboard, get all events, and we have the event.event ID. What we don't have here is an option to return just your stuff. So I think what we can do here, get all events, it look for the sports. If you pass a param, it returns the sports, but we will need to add a different route to handle that. So basically, I will copy the get all events, and I'll create get event by user ID, right? So this is will be get event by user ID. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use the query, the user ID that will be inside the browser to send that to send the information that we need from the user, so that we can return just the user stuff. So if you see here in the create event, we do the same thing. So basically what we can do, we can go to the event, the dashboard controller. Instead of this, we can have a user ID controller, user ID from the headers. And then basically what we can do, we can say find event dot find, and we can return a user equals to user ID. So this is basically me telling Mongoose, go to the table, go to the database, look for all the events, and return for me the events where the user is the user ID, right? So if you look here now, we need to add, could be the same. The only difference will be the query. Yeah, happy with that. So now here will be user ID. So now that we have get event by user ID, any events with the user ID. So here we can customize this message a little bit to improve that. So basically here we can return the user ID. And now basically what we want to do, we want to go to the routes. So if you go to the routes, we will add a routes.get, I'll say dash user dash events. I think that's looks okay for me. And then what we can say dashboard controller dot get events by user ID. Now that we have a way to go inside the user and the events, because I'm telling the events I want is from the user, what we can do in the front end, so let's close this, So in the front end, I can use the get events function. No, basically I need to create another one. So what we can do is basically create another fetch here. So basically what we can do, we can say const response equals await api.get. The URL will be user events, and the header will be the user ID, right? So then we can do the same thing that we had here, and that should be it. The only thing, this function needs to be async. So now if you go here and you click here, you have a filter that brings all the events that I have created, right? And then the good thing is, because I want to create a way for us to delete the event if you are the owner of the event. So basically what we can do is inside the header, right? So inside the header, I want to add a button. This button will be so let me fix that. So you need to open the tag like so, and then inside this I want a button, and this button we're gonna change what a button does, but let's leave like that for now. This active, we won't need that, and basically this button will be the delete button. I think we can pass a property here that is size, and if I'm not wrong, could be small. I don't remember if that's how it does. Yeah, it is. So we have a delete button. However, I want the delete button only inside the events that I am the owner, right, that I have created. So basically what we can wrap this in a bracket, and then we can say if event dot user equals to user ID, I want to show that this is a ternary expression, otherwise I want to return an empty string. Because I have the event, and just to show you so that you understand what I'm doing, so if you do a console log for the event, needs to be here. Now if you look the console, if you look the console and inspect, you will see the event, and the event has a user and has a user ID, and also we have a user ID from the local storage. So I'm basically using that so that I can check against the user ID, and the result will be the events that I have created, like so, are mine, and these events have my ID. The other ones, I created with a different user, so I shouldn't be able to delete that, right? So that's why they don't have a button. That sounds good to me. Now what I want to do is basically say inside the events list we have two buttons, right? Yeah, we do. So we can say events list header and then the button to style that. Okay, so if you do here ul event list, then we have a header and then we have a button, and then I want, just to see if that works, I want to do display flex, and I want to set no, let's just change the color for now. Color, I want the button to be, the text to be black. Let's see if that's going to work. Yeah, so I overwritten the button so that we can test if the scope was correct. So yeah, so now what we can do, let me think here, right? So I have a button, this button is stacked there, so I want to change its positioning to relative. That will make it go over the image, and then I think what we can say, we can make that to go to the right side, is wrap this button and apply some styling to the wrapper, right? So we have a button, this button is inside the header. Just thinking how it would be the best for us to do that. Maybe if we have a div here, we could add this div. So we could do something like, let's, instead of doing the style there, doing the div. So that's the only div inside the header, so that will be alright. And then we can say that flex, and we can say flex direction, so we can say column row reverse, maybe. Let's have a look. Um, let me see if that is being applied the way I was expecting. Oh, so that's a mistake. Is a display flex? It's not a flex. No, it's not position. It's a display flex. Yeah. So now we have the button exactly where we want the button to be. I just want to make this button red because I think the color should be danger. Because like we are deleting, right? This thing. Yeah. So now that we have the button, we have a way to trigger a function that would delete the button, would delete the event, right? So now that we have a button, we can create a function so that we can pass here, instead of this function, will be a delete event handler, and this is actually needed because I want to pass the event ID. So in this case, we have the event and we need the ID of the event. So then we need to define this function down here. We can say const delete event handler. That will be a sync call, and we'll have the event ID being passed to it. And this is an arrow function that basically will say const delete equals await API dot delete, and needs to be in the event. And the delete, if you look the router, so we have a delete here that expects exactly that. So what we want to do will be delete to the event, and here basically pass the event ID, and then we can say if I think we can just do a delete, right? And we can do a try and a catch basically, and if we have an error, we can use the same system that we introduced in other components. So if you look for the events page, we can come back here and get the error and success, and basically we can add that inside after the last item, but inside here. And then basically we want to say if have error, we couldn't, we call error when deleting event. We can use here the event. Now we outside the loop. Let me have a look. Yeah, we won't have access. So we can just say that was deleted successfully. So now what we can do, we need to import the alerts there. So we will need to import these alerts, and we will need to add error and success. So basically here, this line we're not using, so I can delete that. I will add const error and set error, and this will be equal to user state false, and basically now we can copy these and say we have error and success. So success will be set success like so. And then what we can do, we can use the same strategy that we're doing here. We can set a timeout and do that basically. So inside the event, delete event, you can do that, and basically you can copy this, and if you have an error you can say set error and set error, but we don't want to push the user anywhere. Now we have a dashboard that works. We added a few modifications to the event. I think all the filters are working pretty well. You can delete the event. I think we could improve this delete functionality, because like as you can see, what we're not doing is refreshing the page. So what we can do, if you refresh that and you delete, it tells us that was deleted. Let's do some work here. So I want to improve. I think this is not looking great, that's all. So let's move this below in this way. If you delete an event, yeah, you have a message there, but we're not refreshing the page. So what we can do, that quite easily fixable, we can go inside the delete event handler, and we also can make a call for, we can make a call to get all events. So basically this is exactly what we need to do. So if you deleted, you set that to true, you call this for refresh. I think you can refresh after the message. Makes sense. Wait 2 seconds to do so, so that's enough time for you to read the alert that the event was deleted. So in this case, I will add, I think 2.5 seconds probably is more sensible. So if you go back there, let's create another event before we finish. Yeah, let's add these. Will be a test event again. This will be 3, 12, anything. Sport will be cycling this time. We created, it will send us to the cycling. Now we can see that we could delete here. Delete successfully. Boom. You don't have that anymore. So yeah, much better. There's a few things and bobs that we can do. Maybe if you look up here, you can see that we don't have any margin and padding between these things. So I think what we can do inside that, inside this filter panel, we could add a margin bottom of 50 pixel, like so. So this would make a gap, yeah, and then this becomes like actually a header. So if you copy this and you go back to your code, let's go to the CSS. This will be the dashboard one. So there you have it. You can paste there. You can also, let's scope this a little bit better. This is a good process, right? So the CSS, every time that you want to scope, but that in this case here, it's just a div and filter panel, so that's more than enough. If you do a div dot filter panel, it's still working fine, but a little bit you have your style a little bit more scoped. Yeah, so it's all good. I think our app is looking decent. the main thing of this course was to teach you a few things about React, how you manage the state, how you can create things, how you do filters, how you create and add events, do all the CRUD operation. I think we got this so far. So the next episode will be a special one. It will be the one that we come back to the backend, and we're gonna add a few things in the backend. We will start to use WebSockets, and we also will do all we're gonna fix the navigation. So we're gonna protect the navigation, so you cannot go for the roads if you're not logged in, right? So we will do a few things, and that's going to be amazing. Another thing that we can do in the next episode is add a button to log out, because right now you kind of stuck inside your app. So if you go here, like, you don't have how to cancel your session, so we could add an icon somewhere that you click and could log out. I'm gonna think about how we're gonna do that, but that's basically it. We're getting the end of our amazing bootcamp. Remember that we will create a React native app that basically will have all this functionality if you guys help me sharing the first video, and we got more than 1,000 likes. So guys, thanks very much. I really appreciate your support. Don't forget subscribe and share this content with your friends. See you guys in the next video.